Sup everyone, this is Soul Eater Will. Welcome to my new video series, What I Want, where I go through a video game that's either been rumored or announced, and I explain my thoughts on the game and what I want to see in it, what I want that game to be, and all that good stuff. Starting this series off, we're going to be talking about Danganronpa 4. Now, I want to go ahead and clear the air and clarify that Danganronpa 4 is not a game that's been announced, it's not a game that has even been that heavily rumored. The only thing it has going for it is recently Kodaka, the creator of Danganronpa, had an interview where he stated that the possibility of a Danganronpa game coming out is not zero, as long as his relationship with Spike Chunsoft remains on solid ground. So yeah, don't get your hopes up too high, because there's a possibility that Danganronpa 4 will never ever happen. Hell, I was under that impression for a really long time. I thought V3 was going to be the last game, because a couple years ago, Kodaka had left Spike Chunsoft to make his own studio, which kinda implied that he didn't really want to be working on Danganronpa anymore. Plus, Kodaka has stated in multiple interviews that he felt that V3 was his masterpiece and he doesn't really want to succeed it with any Danganronpa games. But let's say Danganronpa 4 did happen. Today I thought I would share my thoughts on what I would want Danganronpa 4 to be if it were a thing. Now, before I get into the video, I do kind of want to warn you guys that I am going to be a little critical about the previous games so I can talk about what things I want to see improved in Danganronpa 4, because obviously with sequels, you want to see your franchise improving. Don't get me wrong though, I still love the older games. I wouldn't make videos about them if I didn't. I actually find that I'm more critical about games I love than games I hate. But yeah, if you're some big Danganronpa fan and you don't want to hear some random guy on the internet talk about the franchise's flaws, then you might want to click off of the video. And as always, remember that this is just my opinion. We all probably want and expect different things from this franchise, so be sure to leave down in the comments below what you want to see in Danganronpa 4. And of course, remember to stay respectful of my ideas and other people's. So with all of that said, let's talk about it. Before we can get into the nitty-gritty of what I want in Danganronpa 4, we need to talk about what it needs to be as a whole. Should it be a sequel? Should it be some spin-off game? Should it be a battle royale where all the students jump out of the battle bus and fight each other to the death? Oh god, I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. Last time someone joked about that, Todd Howard actually made Fallout 76 Battle Royale.
That way he can make Fallout 76 Battle Royale. Damn.
So let's start with a sequel. Contradictory to the game name Danganronpa 4, I don't really want to see Danganronpa 4 be a sequel, and here's why. Let's say they made a sequel of the regular canon, no V3 shenanigans, just the regular canon that ended with the Danganronpa 3 anime. I found that the Danganronpa 3 anime wrapped everything up rather conclusively. I don't see any reason for them to continue that canon. I mean, Junko pulls a Lord Palpatine and returns because the story said yes. And for Danganronpa V3, I feel the same way, but for the opposite reason. Danganronpa V3 had a very open-ended conclusion, almost too open-ended. I can't see how they would continue the series from where the game ended in an interesting or significant way. If they're going to bring back Danganronpa, I want to see them bring it back either soft or hard rebooted. The difference between a soft and a hard reboot is that a soft reboot takes place in the same canon, but it takes place so far into the future or in a different location to where the events of the previous games don't really matter all that much. The best example of this is God of War 4. I mean, imagine the possibilities, like Makoto being 80 years old and his grandson gets involved in a killing game and there's a whole new villain, and just all this crazy stuff that could possibly happen, who knows. A hard reboot is what it sounds like. It's a complete overwrite of any canon, it's completely new ground, completely different universe, and just starting from scratch. You could argue that Danganronpa V3 was a reboot, but it was a little too meta with its previous games at the end. If I wanted a Danganronpa reboot, I would want them to completely make new lore, a new world, just completely restart. A rocky restart, if you will. A hard reboot would give the franchise a plethora of options and opportunities to explore. So yeah, if we got another Danganronpa game, I would want it to be a reboot. Either that or a Monokuma dating sim where all your dating options are just different kinds of Monokumas. I'm not even memeing at this point, I would love to see that. Okay, so Danganronpa comes back, either as a direct sequel, a reboot, a freaking dancing game, whatever. Right quick, let's talk about two big things I don't want them to do. Firstly, I don't want them to avoid innovation, and secondly, I don't want them to fall into a trope trap. Let me elaborate on those points a little bit. I feel like my biggest gripe with the Danganronpa sequels is their lack of innovation when it comes to the core mechanics. Now, that's not to say that there's no innovation in the Danganronpa sequels. Hell, look at the alternate routes in Danganronpa V3. When I'm talking about a lack of innovation, I'm more so talking about the story structure. My biggest gripe with Danganronpa, especially the sequels, is how every game feels the exact same when it comes to their structure of storytelling. The prologue being the setup of the killing game, the first 5 chapters being a bunch of Danganronpa shenanigans, some better than others, but we never really learn all too much about the lore until the final chapter, which is a big lore dump. I don't want the next Danganronpa game to be this for the 4th time. I want them to be a little bit more risky and bold with how they structure their story. Of course, I want the things that make Danganronpa so great, like the trials and the characters and the free time events, all that stuff. But they just need to structure their story a little differently, that's all I'm saying. For example, make more bold decisions with the narrative within the first 5 chapters of the game and don't leave it all to the final chapter. Like in Danganronpa V3 Chapter 3, where they had the opportunity to revive a character but just didn't do anything with it. Instead, they reverted back to a normal Chapter 3 double murder. And when it comes to innovation in gameplay, I want to see more of what we saw in Super Danganronpa 2 Chapter 4, and Danganronpa V3 Chapter 4 for that matter. I love how they created a completely new environment with that fruit tower place, and the final death room was one of my favorite parts of the entire game. I wish they did more stuff like this. And in Danganronpa V3 with the VR setting, which made Chapter 4 probably the best chapter in that game. To summarize, I want them to innovate as much as they can so Danganronpa 4 is a memorable and awesome game. Now to my second point, Danganronpa's trope problem. This connects to my first point because since Danganronpa has a lack of innovation with its story structure, it creates a lot of tropes for itself. Here's a few examples. Firstly, Danganronpa's infamous Chapter 3 double murder trope, and the fact that Chapter 3 always has the worst trials, probably for that reason. It's just so predictable at this point, and they really just need to stop doing it. Secondly, the comedic characters. Every comedic character in Danganronpa either dies or is incredibly underwritten. Not badly written, just underwritten. Take Yasuhiro, who's a dumbass the entire game, and then in the Danganronpa 3 anime takes a backseat to what's happening in the story. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate Yasuhiro, I just wish he was written better. And when it comes to underwritten characters, I feel like that doesn't just apply to comedic characters, that also applies to a lot of the other characters as well. Look, I'm not gonna go too deep into it because I don't want a bunch of kinnies coming for my neck, but if everyone was written like Fuyuhiko, I would be a happier man. But yeah, I want Danganronpa 4 to avoid as many tropes as possible, both ones that they've created in their own franchise, and common tropes that they happen to fall into as well. Bring Komaeda back. He's cool. So Danganronpa's maturity. I want them to turn it up. Alright, I know this sounds twisted because Danganronpa is already a very, very dark game, but you also have to admit that it can be pretty ridiculous and campy at times. And I don't think that needs to go away, because that campiness is what makes Danganronpa Danganronpa. But what they could do is make the darkness of the game darker. I bet a lot of you expected this video just to be me talking about how I want specific murders and trials to go down, like, ooh, I want there to be another protag switch, or ooh, I want there to be a triple murder, or ooh, I want there to be a death where someone gets strangled to death with toilet paper. Wait, that's already a thing? If there's anything I don't want Danganronpa to change, I don't want it to stop surprising me. So I don't have any preferences with how the murders happen or how the trials end, because at the end of the day, as long as Danganronpa continues to blow my mind, I don't really mind how they do any of that stuff. As long as they don't do another goddamn double murder. And I think I'm gonna end it with that. I don't have any strong preferences when it comes to like cast or setting or anything like that, because as long as Danganronpa continues to impress and deliver good content, I don't have any strong preferences in any of those fields. So in conclusion, I want Danganronpa 4 to either be a soft or hard reboot, deliver innovation, throw away tropes, focus a little bit more on character development, rework the story structure, be a bit darker, and continue to surprise me. And other than that, there's not much I can think of that I want them to add or change. Wait, oh yeah, bring back Nagito Komaeda, that wasn't a meme. But what about you guys? What do you want to see in Danganronpa 4? Be sure to leave it down in the comments below, even if it's something as specific as an ultimate talent, or how you want a specific murder to go, or anything really. Or maybe you don't want a Danganronpa 4, maybe you want a spin-off like another Ultra Despair Girls. Be sure to leave it down below. Just remember to stay civil. My dad works for Spike Chunsoft, and I'll personally make sure Danganronpa 4 doesn't happen if you're rude down there. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe to support the channel, be sure to join my Discord for updates, and be sure to follow my other social medias as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, I hope you all enjoyed it, and remember to stay safe and to stay cool. Bye guys.